I'll go ahead and get started, or we'll go ahead and get started, and I will first turn it over to Corinne.
Thank you, Seanniece. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Corinne Carter. I've been a resident in the county for well over 15 years. I lived in Howard County at one point through my high school years, and then we moved back to Prince George's after I graduated. So I just wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us tonight for How to Write Effective Testimony for a Legislative Body. We are all here tonight because we recognize that testifying before elected officials can be daunting and intimidating. We all have important and real life points of view that we want to share, and we want our elected officials to hear us, but we aren't exactly sure of the process or how to express our thoughts effectively. One way is through submitting formal statements or written testimony. Tonight, our instructor, Seanniece, is going to walk us through the what, the why, and the how of effective testimony writing. The information you receive tonight can be helpful to you when you testify before elected officials in the Maryland General Assembly, the Prince George's County Council, the Planning Board, and even the school board and other committees and task force around the county and in the state. We hope that you walk away from tonight's session with more understanding of testimony writing and empowered to speak up. And so with that, I'm going to put myself on mute and I'm going to turn it over to Seanniece.
Hi, everybody. So thank you so much, Corinne, for that wonderful introduction. And also, thank you, John, for just bringing everything together. Also want to thank Yannette, because I, with permission, took some of her slides for our slideshow. She's at the ACLU of Maryland. So wanted to thank you all, because without you all, this could not have happened. So I'll just, tell you a little bit about myself as well. So again, my name is Seanniece Bamiro. I am also a long-time Prince George's County resident, and I've literally gone through school in Prince George's County Public Schools. I'm also a community advocate for the criminal legal system, systemic changes. Professionally, I was a policy advocate for a few Maryland nonprofits. Also, a year ago, was on the Hill working in the criminal legal space for a California Democrat. And right now, I'm doing national or federal legal, criminal legal system work. So policy is kind of always my day-to-day and even extended beyond my 9 to 5. So I'm very excited to be here and very excited to hear from you all, if any questions, and walk you through what I know. Perfect. So for today's agenda, we're going to go over the types of testimony, why it's so important to write testimony. I'm going to walk you all through a piece of testimony that I wrote and just highlight the different components that you should include. Also, going to go over important deadlines, going to walk you all through the MGA website, and then also do a debrief of the walkthrough as well. So after today, you should know how to write testimony, know when and where to submit the testimony, and also know some general resources. So as the agenda says here, Corinne is going to run through some resources at the end, and then we're going to tidy it up and send you all some resources as well as the video, that sort of thing. So we will go ahead and get started to the next slide. Alrighty. So there are 4 types of positions on testimony. So, and I want to just hone in on the fact that a lot of these are interchangeable. So you can use them on your testimony or in an email, and people will ultimately know what you're saying one way or the other. So the first position is favorable or support. So you're in favor or in support of the bill and what it does in its totality. There's favorable with amendments, or favorable with amendments, or support with amendments. And that's you overall support the bill, but there is something within the bill that you want change. So it could be like a very big change or very small change. So for instance, if there is a coalition or a commission that the bill is putting in place, and you say like, hey, there should be a licensed clinical social worker on this commission and they're missing, then you would say like, this is why I support the bill. But it really needs this type of person on the commission. Or if, for instance, there is like one bill and it's only geared towards Montgomery County. And as an amendment, you said like, this should also go to Prince George's County as well because X, Y, and Z. So the next one is unfavorable opposed. So if you were in opposition of the bill. And I'll pause here. And so Monique said, will you receive a copy of the slides? Thank you, Corinne. Yes, we will. So the last type of position on testimony is informational. So with informational testimony, in my experience, it is usually an entity that has to be nonpartisan. It can't do like any C4 lobbying on bills or even C3 lobbying on bills. So this could be like a government agency who works in the field and just wants to provide some information. So for instance, if there is a bill impacting DHS and DHS it's like maybe taking the DHS program and expanding it to another jurisdiction or that sort of thing, or taking the pilot program and making it like statewide. So if I was in DHS and, like I couldn't exactly weigh in on the testimony, that person would probably just give informational testimony on like how the program works for the committee, because there's so many bills that happen that legislators can't know everything that goes on in every detail about every department there. So they would just give testimony about how the program works, or here is the data of what the program does, the outcomes, that sort of thing. So that is just an example of informational testimony specifically. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. So written testimony in this day and age, these COVID times, is super important. And it's really important because there's been so many changes. So before COVID, and many of you all may know this, what you could do, you could go down and you could have a lobby night and you could get in touch with, your legislator. You could hang out and see your legislators coming to vote, and you could say, hey, vote on this, et cetera, et cetera. But face-to-face was definitely one of the tactics that you could use. You could go, you could ask for a meeting from your legislator face-to-face to talk through things. But because of COVID, they have changed so many things, including the way that we can submit testimony, the way that we can advocate for certain legislation. So there's no lobby days, until further notice, and there are a few important meetings. And it's really critical for your legislators to hear from you via testimony these days. And with the changes, they're both more and less accessible. So the plus side is like you no longer have to schlep down to Annapolis and take off from work, find parking if you even can. You don't have to, sign up in person and all of those different things. So it's more accessible, and you can just do it from, behind your screen in the privacy of your home, that sort of thing. But then it's also less accessible to those people who aren't proficient in or technologically savvy, that sort of thing. And so this is kind of, this workshop here is kind of bridging the gap for that, to make sure that everybody is on the same playing field. Right now, we're going to go ahead and walk through the testimony. So this is a testimony that I wrote on behalf of another group and just modified it for today's purposes so that it's more of an I focus than a coalition or organizational standpoint. So we're going to go through the top to make sure you all understand like the key parts of this testimony and what you all need to hit on. So starting at the top, I put the committee. So usually the bill includes, well, the bill always includes which committee it's going to be on. And in the Maryland General Assembly website, it also says what committee that the bill is going through. Also put the bill number here and the title of the bill. Again, there's so many bills coming out that if it's, and especially if it's not a particularly contentious bill, that they're not necessarily going to have tons of time to figure out what the bill number is, especially if they're going through it to see like how many people are supporting, how many people are against it, et cetera. I put the date. The date isn't super crucial. But what is super crucial is the position. So the position is support on this one. And I bolded, highlighted it, underlined it so that they know when they're just flipping through really fast. Also address it to the committee. If you don't know the chair, you can't find it out, or you can't figure out how to find it out, you can just say, dear members of the House Ways and Means Committee, and you can leave it at that way. You can just leave it there. So in my first line, I said that I supported the bill, and I said a little bit about what the bill would do in my own words, and I also included the bill number. In the second paragraph, I put why it's important for me. So I said that I'm a resident of District 23. And not only that, I also said that like I am a Prince George's County graduate. So this is a Counselors Not Cops bill. So that is very pertinent information to this bill specifically. I also talked about why, because I experienced privilege in the Prince George's County public school system, that even when a teacher was trying to expel me for not, or suspend me for not wearing my my ID, I was given grace. It was a very stern talking to, but he basically the principal just sent me back to my class and said, do better. And I also put down like why, like it was great for me, but this is unfair for other people because other people have been extended that same grace. So that was my opening paragraph. So in the next two paragraphs, I have just information, more so like data and facts about why this bill is so important. And I do want to hone in on the fact that you don't need data to necessarily support your stance, and you definitely don't need 2 paragraphs worth of data. Everybody's just different, so you're going to have to find out your own way of doing things. So like Katie Porter has her charts, and Bobby Scott has his PowerPoint presentations. I have my data because I like receipts and I like facts. And I will fax people to death and data people to death. But you don't have to do that. If, for instance, you have 2 paragraphs about why this is impacting you because of your experience, that is good enough, in my experience, in my opinion. But I'm always going to have data, even if I share my personal experience. So if you want to throw in one data fact and say like, hey, like according to the National Reading Coalition, et cetera, feel free to do that. You don't even have to. I put down, because this is just how I usually do it. I also include footnotes of where I get these things, where I get all my data from. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. There we go. But even then, you don't have to do that. Okay, perfect. So I made my point in the beginning. In my second paragraph, I have another point, and then I backed it up with some data from a couple of sources. And then I made another point here, like why students should receive mental health services and support, and why people feel like scholars around the nation feel that that's important as well. I also added some stuff about COVID-19 because that is also important. So I like to end with like little one-liners about like, we need this now, and this is why we need this now. So you can definitely do that if that is your preference, if that's what you like to do. And then I end with thank you. I put my name, I put my email address there, and then, you know, insert your address and put your district there. I was able to get this on to one page because I cheated the margins. But, and it's also 10.5, 10 and a half point font. But you don't have, you do not have to have a ton of data, but you must tell your story. And your story is so important because they don't understand the legislators a lot. Like, some of them are business owners or, you know, lawyers with their own practice. They are, there's, you know, some people who are like millionaires. And so they don't really understand what it is to be impacted day to day, and they don't have your personal perspective. So it's really important to hone in on your story and why it matters and why this bill is important to you and your community. What I do want you all to do is to be very specific about, be very accurate about the bill and the details and what it intends to do. And many organizations, if they're asking you to submit testimony, they'll give you some basic like talking points about what the bill does. If, for instance, it's a bill that is important to you, and you know you've come across it, like just reading through the bill, there may be some articles written on it. You can also just ask the sponsor like what the bill is, you know, about, particularly if you're supporting it. And you also just need to make concise points and support it with whatever fact. That fact might be your life, and that fact might be data. That fact might be a chart, but whatever floats your boat at this point. Perfect. Alrighty. So I'm going to move back to the PowerPoint, and we're just going to have an open session for this next part about the testimony. And so I want maybe one or two people to talk about what part stuck out to you about the testimony.
For me, it was how it started. Like, you definitely you don't want to have them fishing for what you want to happen. You want to put that right in the top. I support this, and I want you to support it too. And I like how you follow up with, these are the reasons why, because this affected me personally. These statistics, yeah, and then follow it up. So that.
Perfect. Did anybody else want to go?
Some of these things, especially now this time of year, we're working in coalitions about the police bills and stuff like that, and lots of different stuff. They do have talking points, and they do have facts, and they do have, you know, it's all out there.
Perfect. And John, I'm so glad you brought up talking points. So some organizations, like you said, some organizations will give you talking points, and you don't have to use all of them. And this is like to a different point on your point, John. You don't have to use all the talking points. If, for instance, there are two talking points that you want to give or want to use, just stick with those two, because again, try to keep it to one page. People stop reading. And even the fact that we have to lay it out so plainly how to write, like how to format the testimony, is because there is a large volume of testimony being written. And so they have, you know, staff working with the committees and that sort of thing that have to sort these things out in support and in non-support. And doing all these things helps them and also helps you get your testimony seen and recognized. And then also want to point out a thing about volume. So John, to your point about, you know, surely they've seen these talking points before. They have, but that's okay. because at the end of the day, working on the Hill, as well as like emails and things, and working with legislators on in the Maryland General Assembly, at the end of the day, they count up how many people have written in support or in opposition, and elevate those issues because it matters to their constituency. So even if, for instance, when it comes to emails, which is different than testimony, when it comes to emails, mostly like the form emails where you can just kind of plug and play, people write the email for you, organizations will write the email for you, and you just assign your name to it. It's also okay to do that as well, because they're looking at volume, and they're looking at how many people support versus how many people do not support. And for instance, like the criminal justice bills, during the testimony, one of the legislators said, this was the only bill that my constituents wrote in about. And so that's why they were so prepared for that hearing, and to ask good questions. Well, they weren't good, but ask questions about the bill, and really see what it is. And I think a lot of the people in their district wrote in opposition of the bill. Which would be so critical, a bill that would have been so critical to many in like counties that don't look like theirs, in Black and brown counties like Prince George's County. So then the next question, number 2, is I want us to kind of work through a little bit about crafting our story. So I want a few people to, and I mean, we have enough people in here to where everybody can go, but no pressure also. So what is one issue that is important to you, and why does it matter to you and your community, your family, or what have you? So I want us to get kind of in the practice of linking our stories to particular issues.
So one issue that's important to me is a quality school system in a county in which I pay high property taxes.
That is fair. So Monique, if there was a bill that, perhaps that bill, we'll just be a little bit vanilla here. So perhaps that bill said this, we are creating this program or this pot of money that increases public education in the state of Maryland by $50 million. How would you, why would that be important to you, and why would that be important to your family, to your community?
Well, it may be important. It just depends upon how it gets filtered out to the counties in the state of Maryland, right? 50 million and 1 million go to Prince George's. Yeah, I've got a problem with that. And it just depends on what is that being allocated to? Is that teachers in training? Is that, additional supports for the students, whether that's, additional social workers to be available. It just really depends on how those funds are going to be allocated, and ensuring that obviously we get our portion of the pie.
Okay. And so in this situation, think of like the best situation possible. So it is it is equitable. The money is equitable for all counties in the state of Maryland, and it is going into exactly what you need. Why would you be in support of that bill as a personal story?
So I would say I would be in support of it because it would increase the resources that are available. It would increase training for teachers, all of this. And I'm supposed to just kind of fly off the top of my head, right? Training for teachers, which ultimately would allow for students to receive more in-depth instruction in the classroom and the supports that they need, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And so how does that impact your community?
Well, it impacts my community because I have family members and friends and neighbors whose children still attend school within Prince George's County. And even when those kids have graduated, there's still folks that look like me who deserve a quality education, regardless if I have a child in the school system or not.
Absolutely. So that is your personal story. And that's what you would write in your testimony. And it's as simple as that, as connecting it back to your personal experience, the personal experience in your community. Anyone want to go next with in whatever that issue can be of your choice, something that you be in support of strongly, or something that you be in opposition to strongly. I'm going to call on Corinne.
Okay, so an issue that is really important to me is definitely smart zoning and smart development in the county. I am a resident and homeowner in Westphalia, Maryland. And for those of you who may not have been watching the news in 2019, Amazon decided that they wanted to build a massive warehouse in the middle of our residential community. And so because of that experience, I've become an advocate and very much engaged in issues revolving around development within Prince George's County. And these issues matter to me because I don't care where you go in the county, residents want development and deserve development the same as development that you would see in other jurisdictions within Maryland. And I think that what I see and what other residents see is that development, we don't get that development here. And so we want development that is gonna give us bang for our tax dollars, that is gonna improve our communities in a positive way for existing residents, not for new residents that decide that they want to move here. And because we realize that these types of developments will also improve opportunities for our children, whether that be through improved school systems and improved education, bringing jobs into the county and into the community, and just giving us all just a better quality of life. So that is why that issue is particularly important to me.
Perfect. So that is an amazing example, Corinne. And Monique, thank you as well. The essence is like, how does this impact your community? So Monique and Corinne, you did a really fantastic job just honing in on the community impact. So I will call on another person. Bradley, did you want to go?
Corinne sort of stole, my passion idea, which is, with smart growth and smart zoning. I'm a resident, for those of you who don't know, I'm a resident in Capitol Heights. And I actually blogged a bit about that Amazon facility in Westphalia as well. So that's actually how I met Corinne. And did I meet you as well, Seanniece? I can't. Seanniece, is it Seanniece, right?
Yes, it's Seanniece.
Yeah. Anyhow, so an issue, sort of a related issue is just sort of, I don't know, transportation. I'll just say, for purposes of the program we've got here, sort of investment in pedestrian and bicycle safety issues. That's something that sort of hits home. So I'm in Capitol Heights. I live within walking distance of Addison Road Metro Station. And we have, obviously we're trying to build, for all the reasons Corinne said, we're trying to build sort of walkable, transit-oriented communities. But also the building block to that is creating safe ways for people to get to and from the metro. I mean, we can talk about economic development. We could talk about all of that kind of stuff too. But if you're just sort of on the corner of a street, like battling against, you know, speeding cars, and you're not really feeling safe, you know, or you're trying to cross Central Avenue at the Addison Road Metro Station. I mean, it took people dying for them to put a crosswalk there. And so if, you know, I don't know that there's legislation now, but certainly I would be in favor of legislation, particularly around our metro stations that improved pedestrian safety. I mean, the street I live on is sort of, it's right across from Addison Plaza, but there's no way to get across the street except for dodging and ducking and darting against traffic. So it's those sort of things that really impact our safety that I would be in favor of, and trying to. So if I were to write testimony, and I do write, I bug people all the time. So part of signing on was to get some tips, some additional tips. But yeah, like I would sort of hone in on those, you know, the safety aspect, and how like that's a fundamental building block. If you want to bring things to the neighborhood, you have to make the neighborhood easy to get around on foot.
Absolutely. And like adding to your point, bringing up the fact that, you know, community members have died. Like you said, community members have died before they even put up a walkway. And, you know, I actually grew up, you know, that was my metro station growing up, and my community growing up. And people, even now, less so now because of the speed traps and that sort of thing, but people would fly down Central Avenue. And so those are really key places, key points to bring up in testimony, and making it about your community and making it about, you know, yourself, your family, etc. So thank you, Bradley, for letting me call you on the spot. Everyone was on the spot, so we're just making up scenarios here and applying them as well. So also, this isn't the state level. This is more of a county level thing. But for instance, a lot of people's big thing is 2-day trash pickup. It's a real contentious issue. Everybody wants 2-day trash pickup. So for instance, like how this impacts you and your family, you know, making, like, maybe you're in support of going back to, you know, 2-day trash pickup, and relating that back to like why that's important for you and your community. Maybe the litter has been, you know, increasing because of the 2-day trash pickup, or what have you, but making sure that, again, you're bringing it back to why it matters to you, to your family, to your community. So I say that a lot, so we'll move on, but just honing in on that. And thank you all for the wonderful examples and just participating. So we're going to go to the next slide and talk about important deadlines. So one of the impacts of COVID is there are these new bill hearing deadlines this year. So you have to submit your written testimony or sign up for verbal testimony, or both, 2 business days before the hearing. This is Maryland General Assembly only, and gotta go back. So 2 business days before the hearing. So just to hone in on that point, just look at Monday. So we're only going to focus in on the oral witness and written testimony sign up. And this was pulled straight from the Maryland General Assembly site. So the first row, specifically looking at Monday, you have to submit it Thursday. So definitely 2 business days. And it was originally 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., but they extended an extra hour. So you cannot submit your testimony outside of that very short window. Why? I personally think it's to limit the volume. of people submitting in it, submitting testimony. So these are the new deadlines. And I will go ahead and move to the next slide, where I just filmed a video about the Maryland General Assembly website and how to sign up on it. A very short video, so I'll go ahead and play it.
Hey everybody, this is Seanniece, and I'm just gonna walk you through the process to sign up for witness testimony. Sign up as a witness. We're gonna go to the Maryland General Assembly website, mgaledge.maryland.gov. So what you're gonna do, you see the screen, this lovely revamped website in the last few years, and then you're gonna go all the way to the right to My MGA. If you haven't registered, of course you can register. This is the only way you can submit testimonies if you register. So register, forgot password, you know, all that deal, sign in. I'm already registered, so I just sign in. Boom. All right, so then you see I track my bills. You don't have to, but but what's important for today is witness sign up. So if you see all the way in the left here under bill tracking list, you got witness sign up FAQ, change password, et cetera, et cetera. Go to witness sign up and you're going to get to this page. Now, it is very, very important, and it's something I had to learn myself. If there are no bills within the windows, then this page will be blank. It'll literally be this bar here, save, cancel, sign up items, committees. And there'll be nothing here. And you'll be like, oh dear, what do I do? Just remember that's why. All right. So if you go to committees, because there's a bunch of bills to sign up for within the sign up window. So here's a list of all the committees that have bills. We can go to, I don't know, transportation and environment, because that's important too. So it brings up all of the bills that you can sign up for within the testimony window, and give you the date, et cetera, et cetera. And again, you have to do this before 3 p.m. So for instance, like let's take this middle one, right? When you sign up, it automatically puts your organization. You can say whatever organization you're part of. You can just say yourself. If you're submitting for yourself, what is your position? So that's going back to favorable with amendments, information only, or unfavorable. Let's go with information only, just, for purposes today. Testimony. So if you want to give verbal testimony, that's oral. If you want to give written, both, you could do that. All right, then you're going to go to upload files. Make sure you upload your file. You're going to go to choose file. I won't do that today, but you all know the process. Many folks have uploaded documents before. So choose file, you're going to choose your file, and then you're going to click OK. For the purposes today, I'm going to click the X. And what is very, very, very crucial is to go all the way to the left, hit save. Please hit save. Maybe hit it twice, just in case. I'm a little nervous about technology, and so sometimes I do things twice. Perfect. And so that is it. Then when nothing's gonna come up because I'm not signed up for anything, but then you could double check, because I'm a worrywart. You could double check and signed up items and see all your signed up items. All right, and so that's it. It is less intimidating than you think.